My special guest on this podcast, my former boss and mentor, award-winning journalist, talk show host, attorney, and author, Geraldo Rivera is joining me. And Blankwell isn't just for the bed. Bring yours anywhere you like to get cozy. The best weighted blanket. Listen at the end of this podcast for a limited time only special offer. That's myblankwell.com.
Cato was great, wasn't he? He was a perfect talk show guest.
We had so much fun. I'll never forget sitting in your office during the famous OJ chase.
Right. The OJ trial was something, but Cato, it was so funny because here in this horrible story of a brutal double murder where, a sports icon, a pop cultural celebrity, we think murdered his wife and her friend, and it's so serious and talk about blood-splattered crime and all the rest. Then you have Cato Kalin, the house guest, who comes on our show, and I had to lend him a jacket, or we didn't have right clothes. And then he ended up crashing at my house. So it's pretty funny. Those were the days.
We had some great days, and I'll never forget. I don't know if you remember this story, but Faye Resnick wanted to take one of the outfits I was wearing off my body. Do you remember that? And I said, "You owe me, Geraldo," and you gave me your credit card. Do you remember that?
I remember Faye very well, more than I want to. But that was the talk show. It went for 11 seasons, and we did a couple of thousand episodes. It probably would still be on if I wanted to do it, but it was crazy at times, and at times it did righteous stuff.
Yeah, how about our celebrity news show with the gang, Mike Walker, Cindy Adams, Richard Johnson?
Yeah. I think that we helped make gossip mainstream in many ways. Mike Walker, in all the 11 years we were on, Mike Walker of the National Enquirer was our number one most frequently booked guest. And the Celebrity Fridays always rated people like them. Now you've got so many different Inside Hollywood and Insider and Entertainment Tonight and all the rest of them. There's a celebrity show on every half hour, 24 hours a day. But it was groundbreaking at the time.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. It was great. I learned so much from you by watching you, by being with you, by just I was always in awe of you.
So how did you come in your personal trajectory to be on the radio?
Oh, I basically was out to dinner with a couple people, and I met this guy, and he was saying he had a couple radio shows, and I said, I need my own show. And he said, call me. And so I called him, and here I am.
Here you are.
Remember, I'll never forget going to work. I think I was producing the celebrity news show that day, and the front page of the paper was the JonBenet Ramsey story.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
And remember those times when we were in Colorado? I'll never forget going with Greg Hart, and nobody wanted us there.
JonBenet Ramsey, I thought of her a couple of days ago, the poor thing, when, there was one of the channels is running the Little Rich Beauty documentary. There's one every year on these bizarre beauty contests where they sexualize these 4-, 5-, and 6-year-old girls, tart them up, make them look like midget prostitutes. And JonBenet Ramsey, I think that's one of the reasons we felt the parents were involved in her brutal murder, because of the feeling that anyone who could be so insensitive as to take their child and exploit them and tart them up in that way, probably had some different proclivities. But I don't accuse everyone involved in the tournament or the pageant scene, obviously, but it certainly gave us a bad taste in our mouth when we first got there.
Oh, yeah. You did one of the last interviews with Michael Jackson.
Well, I considered Michael Jackson a friend of mine in that period when no one liked him at all. Everyone thought he was a child molester. You might recall one day I bet my mustache I was so sure he would be acquitted in the criminal trial because it was such an obvious frame job. I mean, you had the same psychologist who had settled the first case back in '93, the same lawyer. It was like they were following the same menu, and now it comes to find out how many others tried to shake down Michael between 1993 and 2005. And what struck me watching his memorial service was how many people were talking there, like Brooke Shields and so many others, that had no real connection to Michael Jackson in the last years of his life. More importantly, who bent over backwards to distance themselves from Michael when he was unpopular and was accused on that hideous charge of a molestation. But when I was with him, I thought that not only did I think he was innocent of the principal charge, I also thought that It had made him, in many ways, so paranoid and so cloistered and so afraid of the world that he became, in many ways, the caricature that people had tried to make him. And it was sad. I mean, sometimes I'd be with him, and he'd be with his kids, and he'd be a perfectly normal parent, and they'd be arguing over whether to have Frosted Flakes or or Captain Crunch, and whether to watch Nickelodeon or the Disney Channel, or just be really normal kind of stuff.
Right.
And other times he'd be in a fetal position in a darkened room, afraid to look up at me. It was very, very sad. But I was tremendously relieved when justice was done and he was acquitted. But then watched with some bemusement, let me say, how his image was remade in a convenient way by people who wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Right. Oh, boy. And how is your beautiful wife, Erica?
Erica's great. She's visiting with some people today. But our baby is Sol, named for the sun. She's the last of my 5 children. I'm not going to have any more.
You're done?
I promise. I'm done. I'm really done. I'm a member of ARP now. And I've been married. Eric and I have been together years, and in those years, you notice I've been off the gossip pages. Basically, I've, in many ways, become a very calm and I pride myself on being a good daddy and a faithful husband, and my life is in that sense turned around. I still go to crazy places. I still do, the coverage of events that need covering. Otherwise, I'm kind of boring. I go to see IMAX 3D. That's about as wild as I get.
And how is your brother, Craig?
He's right here. He's with me.
Say hi, and say hi to Greg.
Wendy Lowy's got a radio program. Yeah. But we're all, they're still cooking along. As crazy as ever in the sense that we'll do whatever it takes to get the story. But it's been a wild ride, and I think of that staff, the team that you were on during those 11 years, and I don't think a better staff has ever been put together. It's just one of those serendipitous things. We had people from all different walks of life. It's as diverse as you can get in many, many different ways, and we put together a good show that no one expected to be a hit or to last as long as it did. But I think of that staff, you all, and that experience very fondly.
Oh, me too. Those were the greatest times. You're the greatest. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm proud to be on your show, and I hope you have thousands more. Wendy, we love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much, Geraldo.
Bye-bye. Good luck, honey.
Thanks.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Blankwell, the #1 weighted blanket in the world. For a limited time only, use code WENDY30 for 30% off all orders.